Welcome to my channel, friends. I am back with you all today with my thoughts, a spoiler-free book review, as it is, on a horror romance novel that I recently finished, Lisey's Story by Stephen King. We're back in Castle Rock, Maine with Stephen King in this book, and Lisey Landon is our main character. Lisey is a widow. She's the surviving wife of a very famous, accomplished novelist named Scott Landon. Scott had made $20 million, wrote a famous novel, bought a nice house, did public readings of his books, and he had a big fan base, and a crazed fan is at the heart of this book. We have two things going on here. We have Lisey's life after the death of her husband. She has her own family. She has a very mentally ill sister who's an important part of this book. And she also is being extorted by an extremely dangerous, crazed fan of Scott's. He's looking for anything he can make a buck on. He wants an unpublished novel, an unpublished novella, unpublished short stories. Doesn't matter what it is. And the second thing we have going on with this book is Lisey's recollection of the past with her husband. As this novel opens up, Lisey realizes that her husband, before his death, left her a bit of a boule, or a puzzle game, and she's trying to work through this puzzle that her husband has left her, and while she does so, she realizes that her husband had a very extraordinary, dark, haunted childhood. There's many things about her husband that she didn't know, that she's coming to realize as she's working through this boule. And this is no spoiler, friends. There is a supernatural element to this book. No surprise, being a Stephen King novel, Scott Landon, when he was a kid and as an adult, had the extraordinary ability to travel to another world. Lisey Landon goes on in this book, trying to solve this puzzle game, trying to figure out what this extraordinary stuff about her husband consisted of, and she has the real dangerous issue with this crazed fan trying to extort her, and I'm going to leave it right there. I give this book a 3-star review. I actually read 100 pages of this book and quit. I was in a group reading it, and one of our members told me to push on, that it got better, and I'm actually glad I picked it back up. The book does get better after the opening. There's so much crazy stuff going on in this book that I did not see in the first 100 pages, and it really is a testament to the deep imagination of Stephen King, what happens in this book with Lisey and the other worlds. And I really like the recurring character of Norris Ridgwick, the sheriff in this book. I like Stephen King because he revisits different books as he writes new books. There's a lot of interconnected things going on in the Stephen King universe, and the Castle Rock series of books is just one example of that awesome aspect that is the Stephen King universe. I give this a 3-star review. A lot of themes going on in this book, from love and loss and what it is to be loyal, friendship. Stephen King is really modeling, I think, a lot of Scott's character after himself in this novel. Stephen King has said that this was his favorite book that he ever wrote. King was hit by a van back in the late 90s, and while he was at the hospital, his wife packed some things up in his office. When he came home, he went to his office, saw some things packed up, and he thought to himself, this is what my office would look like if I were killed. So that's where Stephen King got the inspiration for this book. And all in all, I think it's a fairly good book. It does have a slow start, but ultimately I like the interesting nature of the puzzle game that her husband leaves for her. And his childhood is extremely interesting. That was the best part of this book. Going back to understand this demented childhood that Scott Landon had was my favorite part. It was a really interesting and an imaginative part of this book. Lisey's story, I give it a 3-star review. And if you're a constant reader of Stephen King novels, I highly recommend this book. Of course, you have to have this piece of the Castle Rock tale. If you're not particularly a fan of Stephen King, I'm not going to recommend Lisey's story. 3-star review. Please subscribe to me if you made it this far. Thanks for the support. See you later, friends.